Good evening and welcome to the premiere show of Body Talk with Cindy. I'm Cindy Prince, your host. Our goal in having this open discussion is to talk about body issues. I, as an obese person, have dealt with them most of my life. And sometimes, they're very private moments that you have and private things that you go through, whether it's you're anorexic, bulimic, or on the other end of the scale where you're obese. And it's nice to open that up, to discuss it, and that's what this forum is for. So we can talk to one another. We're going to share some of the most private, maybe, struggles that we've had. I've been at least 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. To tell you a little bit about myself, I've been at the point where it was difficult for me to walk from my bed or a chair at work to the bathroom without giving out a breath. And I've been on a journey, and the journey is to create health, become healthy, not just to be thin, but to actually accomplish that. You need to love yourself no matter what your skin is, and realize that your body is not you. You're much more than that. And our first guest that we're going to have on the show is Marilyn Shannon. You may be familiar with Marilyn. She has a show of her own, two of them actually, The Scope of Things, which is a business show that teaches you how to think outside the box, and also Breaking Free, where she talks about taking freedom steps to accomplish more in life. Marilyn, welcome.
Hey Cindy, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you because I've actually, in the last probably a little over a year that I've known you, seen some pretty drastic changes for you as far as your body and, becoming more aware of it, and just how firm and tight you've become, which is really amazing and very inspirational. But I want to ask you a question. Have you dealt with weight issues your whole life?
I would say that as far back as my awareness of weight, I have, had, I've been thin, but most of the time I've always felt chubby. I always have felt that I was chubbier and heavier than everybody else. And I've always had issues with parts of my body. Like, I have a really small waist, but I've always had big hips, big thighs, and a butt. And so I've always had those things to deal with throughout my entire life. And I've been working on it, on and off, as even a teenager. I always felt that I stuck out. I always had a small waist, so I always felt, I would wear tighter clothes on the top, because I always felt that the tighter the clothes, the more my figure would show, so I didn't look so boxy. But yeah, I've always had, issues, and it's always been a lot to deal with as a young young girl, teenager. I've always had issues with my legs, just chafing, things like that, just not happy things.
So, it's been an up and down type journey your whole life?
Yeah.
And was there any particular time of your life that you were heavier than any other time?
That's a good question. Well, certainly, even when I was pregnant, I have two children, and I can remember when I was pregnant, it was almost as though I gave myself the permission to pretty much eat anything I want, because I figured I'm getting fat anyway, and so I might as well just enjoy it. But afterwards I was really heavy, and I remember also being really, really heavy for my parents' 20th wedding anniversary. And 25th, and I was like 19 years old, or something like that. And I can look at those pictures now, and I was really heavy then. And so there are parts of my life that are significant that I can look back and say, yeah, I was really heavy then.
And what did you find, because the topic we're going to discuss tonight is a catalyst for change. And I guess everyone experiences that differently. When I was much heavier, my catalyst for change is I wanted to live, and I didn't want to become the person that had to be cut out of a house. And that's literally what would panic me sometimes, that think I could do that. I mean, if I've let myself get this far, I could go even further. It's been a long time since I felt that way, but I've certainly had those feelings before. And that was just, okay, you just want to get to the point where you can live and you walk to the bathroom without giving out of health or giving out of breath. So what would you say, like, your latest catalyst for change?
I always somehow put a carrot in front of me that would be like the impetus for me to really work on myself. So about 4 years ago, my daughter was getting married, and I didn't want to have a really hard time finding a dress because I knew I would. Finding a wedding gown dress for my daughter's wedding was going to be a nightmare. I just knew it. And so I really worked hard at, losing weight and working out. And I also wanted to feel, even if I wasn't going to be thin, I wanted to feel better. And I knew whatever I could do to feel better would make me feel better. So that was an impetus to really watch myself. And then my other daughter was getting married this past March. And again, I really focused on, exercising. And, for about a year or so before she got married, I started because I knew it would take me a long time. I mean, for me to lose weight, it takes a long time. I don't lose pounds. I mean, I could diet for 5-6 months and really be good and lose 2 pounds on the scale. I am not a big pound loser. I tighten up, but I don't lose pounds. So I knew that it was going to be work. And again, I wanted to wear the dress that I wore for my other daughter's wedding. And I wanted it to even look better on me. And I was scared. So I worked really hard, and I used that as my impetus. And then when the wedding was over, I felt good. And I thought to myself, you know what? I could feel even better than this if I really focus more on eating better and doing even more exercise. And I wanted to feel really, I could taste the good feelings, and I knew I could even improve upon them. So since March, I've really been working at, I found an exercise that works for me, which is swimming. I know my limitations, and I don't want my limitations to limit me. So I found ways to, like, I swim every day. I can do it. I don't get overheated. I don't get out of breath, and it works every part of my body. And I know my limitations. I know if I walk in this weather, I'm going to sweat a lot, and my legs are gonna click back and forth. And I tend not to wear a lot of shorts because my thighs are heavier, and when I wear shorts, I get irritated, and it gets really, really hot. So for me, being in the pool, I can do that. I don't have to make myself suffer. So I like to put a carrot in front of me, and whatever it is that works for me, I'm going to do. Whatever it is. If I knew I was going to go on vacation, and I was going to go somewhere where it was going to be warm, I would be motivated to really continue to work on myself because I like the good feeling. And even if I'm not a model size, whatever good feelings I could get is better than nothing.
It's always amazing to me that how no matter what size you are, once you start making that effort, and you start, whether it's exercising or eating better, but just making the effort, you feel so much better. Well, you're just, in general, I think that obviously, eating some of the proper foods or eating the proper foods and not some of the sugars and other things that may be a trigger for you help in just your overall health. But just you almost think of yourself as a thin person, and you think, oh, I'm doing great, or whatever. Now, I see that we have some listeners out there, and I'd invite you to call in. The number to call in is 518-9773, and we'd love to hear some experiences. Amnon is showing me the numbers like huge in front of me, and I'm looking for it. We'd love to hear some experiences about how people have made changes, or what has caused them to make changes. I personally, as I said, there have been different points in my life where different things have been the catalyst for change. And whether it's just that I've lost, 20 pounds so I could breathe, or right now I'm really working on going the whole way so I feel my optimum health. I have suffered from all the overweight diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea. I sleep with a CPAP machine. I mean, and the only reason I have them is because I'm overweight. And those diseases are deteriorating my body. And so I have to take control of that now, because I have nieces and nephews and family and great nieces and nephews that I want to live a long time to see them. So I want to take care of myself. I want to have the energy to be a part of their lives for a long time. And I also don't like it when, like, we go to the park and I can't do as much as, I want to be active and be out there playing with them, etc. So for me now, that's a big catalyst for change. To feel well, to have a lot more energy, and be much more active. I'm doing that in improving my way of eating. I have a health coach that's helping me. I'm actually doing Take Shape for Life now. But this show isn't about any particular product, because there's a lot of ways out there and everyone's different, and something speaks to them on making a change. And so that's what our talk is going to be about. What helps you make a change?
Cindy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you so that helps you make a change. What is helping you stay there?
Well, I feel so much better. I really do feel better, but I also, I'm imperfect, and I've always had a very all or none type attitude, and it's like either I'm perfect on my eating habits and what I'm supposed to do, or I'm not. And I have to overcome that, because this is a journey for my whole life. And in my life, I can't be all or none. I have to try to be balanced, and I have to just look at it really, and I hate to say something like this, but one day at a time. It's kind of cliche, but you really have to. Sometimes it's every minute at a time, and taking the steps to improve. And I very easily can, I may not eat things that aren't good for me, but I can overeat the things that are good for me. So it's a constant awareness. And I want to be aware, and I realize that there are many people out in the world that deal with these issues. Sometimes I hear people tell me, it's like, I really need to lose 5 pounds, or I need to lose 10. And there have been some points in my life where I thought, oh, please, I don't even want to hear it. Tell me when you have to lose 250 pounds, what it's like. But that's the right attitude. I mean, when you only have 5 or 10 pounds, then lose it. Because you don't want to just continue. It very easily adds up. We have a caller.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. Who's this?
This is Hope.
Hi, Hope. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the catalysts for change you've experienced.
Well, I think that for me, it's keeping my cup full. I don't know that you know this, but I was the 2003 Miss Plus North Carolina, and
Wow.
I was first runner-up to Miss Plus America that year. And I felt like I was on top of the world. Now granted, I was about 350 plus pounds at the time. And but as soon as I got on the plane to go back home, it all came back. It all came back. All of the stereotypes, all of the nasty looks, all of the snide comments, like couldn't fit in the seat of the airplane, all of that stuff came back. And, a matter of, I just left this place of being empowered and being, celebrated to back to you're nothing. You're worthless. You have no self-control and you don't deserve proper treatment, all of that. And so I find that keeping my cup full, but, being around positive people and a nurturing environment, it really helps. And I forget that because I go on autopilot way too often.
And Hope, I know that what a dynamic person you are. I know Hope, and I know how successful you are in business. And sometimes, we lose sight and we think, okay, I have this big albatross around my neck because I'm really obese or overweight. So how can you be so successful in other ways but not seem to be able to control that? And that's something I fight with. But you have to love yourself because, you've accomplished a lot. I know you're beautiful, so it doesn't surprise me at all that you were, a part of that contest, pageant.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
But I know that we've talked before, and you've really pushed yourself for exercise, and I know that you're very empowering to other women. Does that help you in just your own constant battle?
Yeah, and like I said before, for me, I don't know whether it is just a deep down lack of belief that I can do it, but there are times when I just choose to go on autopilot because the fight is just so hard. It's just so hard, and having to put on like a battle armor every day to engage life is kind of it's just taxing. It's taxing, and so I think that as I am being inspired by folks like you and your bravery in doing this show, is to just surround myself with like-minded individuals. And I'm totally on board. If you've got like 5 or 10 pounds to lose, God bless you, but don't even bring it here. Don't bring your woes here because I've got about 250 to lose too.
For me, I have to say, if it's okay, I think it's taking it a day at a time and not looking at the 250 as 250. Just not even looking at it. Just taking it a day at a time and doing the best each and every day that we can. Like I don't look at how much I need to lose. I don't even look at that. I know that if I'm doing the right thing, it doesn't really matter. And when I get through every day and I haven't eaten the wrong food or I've, did my exercise and I've put something on that I haven't been able to wear in a long time, when I get to bed, I'm thrilled. So I just do my best to take it a day at a time.
I know that I agree, because when you have an immense amount of weight to lose, sometimes it seems almost hopeless. It's like, how can I be that way? Or, I certainly have lost large quantities of weight in the past, and every time that I lost that weight, I gained it back plus much more. And that's how I ended up being as heavy as I am now is, you lose 50 pounds and you gain 100. You lose 90 pounds and you gain 150. And it just seems a constant battle your whole life. And then I've kind of started to try to look at it a little differently. I've been more forgiving to myself, in that if I wasn't perfect, then I wasn't going to say, oh, you really messed up and now you need to go eat, several pieces of cake and some ice cream. But just to say, oh, well, because in this latest journey, I've hit plateaus. And I thought, I'm not eating sugar, I'm not eating this, I'm not eating that. I should lose weight just by the virtue of giving these things up. And that's just not the way it is. I've been heavy for a long time. It's going to take me a long time to lose it. And there's a lot of, this is weird, but it's kind of scary in some ways. As I start to lose the weight, I find that, I've got like skin issues and things that aren't as, when I was fatter, it was actually, my body was firmer than it is now. Of course, I need to exercise more to kind of offset that. But what about you, Hope? Do you find that? Do you think about, well, as I lose weight, am I going to have those skin issues and et cetera?
Yeah, and I find it absolutely terrifying. And for a while, that held me hostage. I think there's a lot of the head game that you need to win in order to finally win the weight game, if you want to call it that. Because I've known people who've had surgeries and have gained it all back. You really have to conquer the demons in your head, the issues that you have and mindsets that you have, in order to realize that, okay, it's not going to be perfect. I heard you on Marilyn's show the other day about the idea that you'll just lose it all perfectly and there won't be any skin and there won't be any of that. And yeah,
it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, we all need a reality check, and learn to love ourselves. Period.
Correct.
That's the key, I think, is the loving. I really have to say that I'm more aware of myself now in loving myself more than I have. Cindy will tell you, we've been out together, and one day I was walking and I looked down at my legs and I noticed I had these holes in the front of my legs, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then I was like staring at them, and I came home and I showed them to my daughter, and she said, Mom, those are muscles. I'd never seen them before. I had these indentations in my legs, and I'm really like loving myself more and more and more each and every day. I love myself for being able to do this. I think I'm in love with Cindy for her doing this. Hope, I think you're fabulous for being able to come on and talk about this. I love you. So, speaking
back at you.
Huh?
Back at you.
Back at you too, because listen, we're talking about some really sacred things here. Things that, you don't share with just anybody.
Right.
And yet we are. And so, congratulations, because I think you both are terrific.
And I think that a big source of learning self-love, because one thing I noticed is that I didn't look at, I looked at myself in the mirror pretty much from my eyes up, and I tried not ever to look at myself here because I didn't want to see this. And if I didn't see it, then I really didn't have to acknowledge it. Or I really never looked at, how women go into the dressing rooms and they try things on and they look at themselves and they spend an inordinate amount of time looking how it looks in the mirror. And I'm like, no, Number one, I always take things home. I never try them on in the dressing room. When I get home, it's like, okay, I'm at the point now, I mean, there's times when, I mean, you're so large you can't even, like, I've been so large that I couldn't shop in Lane Bryant's, that I had to have, you know, like some of the other specialty stores to purchase clothes. How embarrassing or how horrifying is that, if you really think about it, that you can't go into a plus size store and buy clothes? Then you think, well, what's the next step? If you don't get a handle on this, what do you do next? Do you have to start having to, you know, to make tents for you? I don't know. I mean, you want to acknowledge that. I think about, I want to look good. I mean, face it, I want to look good. And I want to, now I think about it and I think I just want to look as good as I possibly can. And since I've lost a little weight, then thankfully I can shop in Lane Bryant's again. And I will be glad when I can shop in just a regular store and not have to worry about the plus sizes. But that's not even the most important thing, because I know that's a long time coming. It's just feeling better about myself each day. And it's not just, okay, about being thin. It's about the fact that I finally am trying to love myself enough to take care of myself. And I think that when you have been really obese, that there's some self-loathing, even if you try not to acknowledge it, even subconsciously to yourself, you just try to ignore it. And I'm really good at ignoring and trying to avoid those issues that I don't want to deal with. And when you realize that self-loathing, because you've allowed yourself to get in a certain space, is counterproductive. And it's only when you can really appreciate, well, I can do this for myself, or my, you know, my legs still take me and my body still works and I can get around, and, you know, really just trying to appreciate the small things that your body can do for you. Can you really make a change, I think, on that?
You know what, Cindy? I think you were saying something really brilliant. I think it's really also about acknowledging the journey along the way. Every step. Like if you go into Lane Bryant now and you can it's a celebration.
Right.
You know, everything you accomplish must be celebrated. You know, I've often said we have to acknowledge ourselves. It's like fuel for the car. If you don't acknowledge yourself, you can't go. So every chance we can, do or die, acknowledge ourselves. I'm acknowledging the holes in my legs. I'm acknowledging my toes even. My toes look different because of being in the water. My skin is tighter, and I look at it and I stare at it and I love it. And so acknowledging every step of the way is so important, acknowledging ourselves for everything that we accomplish on this healthy journey is one day closer to the accomplishment. And it's already an accomplishment. So really acknowledging ourselves is, I think, one of the most important things you can do every single day.
I agree.
Every day.
And I want to thank Hope for calling in, because I really appreciate that. And Kelly is on our chat, and she says it's not about being thin, it's about being healthy and loving who you are. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. To not have to try to stay free of disease, to one day just be able to run or walk for a mile. I think that's where we're trying to head. Again, I think that one of the reasons I wanted to open myself up to this, it's very personal, and it's, you know, as I'm talking, I'm getting a little, you know, choked up or feel like crying. And I think it's because there's a lot of things I haven't allowed myself to feel along the way. Because you just think this is it, you've got to deal with it. And I'm a fairly matter-of-fact person. And there are a lot of emotions that are deep down that, well, this is what the show's about. We'll probably have a lot of tears, a lot of laughter, and hopefully a lot of progress. I think there are people that are out there that are shut-ins, that don't get out, and probably need someone to talk to. And I welcome anyone to call in. I had someone email me and they asked, they actually are recovering bulimic, and they asked could they please call in anonymously and discuss and be a part of our show one day to talk about the things that they've dealt with body image. And I said, absolutely. And if you feel like you want to call and it's too personal for you to share your real name, then don't give your name or use an alias. I don't know. Be Jane Doe. But call in and let's talk. One thing that resonated with me with Hope is the airplanes. If you've ever, if you're heavy and you see all the things, you think, wow, I don't want to have to fly. And it kind of, because you would just be horrified if they ask you to buy 2 seats, or because it's just so uncomfortable to, you know. And then you see on Facebook and different things, oh, I had to sit beside this fat person in the plane, and people are, you know, complaining. And I mean, I understand when your space is invaded that you're uncomfortable, but just think how it is to be the person that's causing the uncomfort to you. And so that restricts maybe what you're able to do, or to go out or travel, etc. And this could be, you know, it's not even that. I've talked to people that are 50 pounds overweight or 25 pounds overweight, and they feel so poorly about themselves and maybe feel so poorly in general or tired that they just come home. They don't want to leave again. They cut themselves off, and cutting yourself off is not the way to go. You have to be out there. You have to share. And I welcome anyone that knows anyone that's dealing with obesity to share this show with them. We're going to be on the first Tuesday of every month, and we're going to be discussing different topics. The next one, we are going to have Erica Perlow. She's a health coach. She's going to come on, and she's going to talk about some of the ways of creating health, because it's not about eating, just eating. It's not just about exercise. It's about so much more. It's about emotions, about purpose, about caring for others. There's just a whole dynamic around feeling healthy, because it's emotional and physical health. Now, Marilyn, again, let me go back to you, because I tell you, every time I see you, I'm just amazed at how tight you look. I'm like, wow. And I mean, I have just seen her, and you know, she was always a very happy person, etc. before, but she has blossomed. And I think maybe it's just the, you know, they say the physical exercise is good for you mentally also. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, a day for me that I'm not doing something physical is not, it's still, like, I didn't do anything this morning, which was the first morning that, like, I didn't get up to go swim, but it was raining, and I just wasn't into swimming in the rain today. But I would have, you know, under other circumstances, I would go, but I just was tired. But I love feeling high. I love feeling high. I love the feeling of doing my laps and coming out of the pool and having that feeling, and then coming home and taking a beautiful hot shower and drinking some hot coffee, because I like to do my exercise in the morning. I'll do it any time I can fit it in, But I know me, and I know I'm better doing it in the morning, so I only have to get dressed twice. But I love feeling high. I just love it, and I don't want not to feel it. And when I've exercised and I've accomplished all that, I have this light feeling about myself. I'm kind of on my toes, and I'm like a little kid bouncing, and it's like that all the time I do it. And it's just this great feeling, and I want more of it. And it's a gift I've given myself. So um, I just can't. I won't stop. I'm already thinking about the winter time, and how am I going to swim every day in the, and have to drive somewhere, 15, 20 minutes away, because I love the idea of just popping in my pool. But I'll figure something else out, because the feeling of knowing I'm doing something like that for myself is a feeling I cannot be without. And so and when I'm tempted to eat something, or not swim, I think of the results. I think of the feeling that I will have, which isn't as good as the feeling I could have if I'm swimming or doing something. And so I don't want that. And I think of the results. I think of my legs, and I look at the things on me that I'd never had before, and I don't want to give it up. I've come so far that the rest of the journey is not as difficult, because I've already started, and starting is so hard sometimes. I mean, I've started so many times and not stayed. I don't want to have to do it again. I like the fact I'm there, and I just won't give it up. It's too important. So there's not even a question for me.
Well, let me ask.
Yeah.
When you first started going to the pool, were you self-conscious?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So how did you overcome that?
Got in the pool. Because I just stayed in the feeling of what I was doing. That's all. I always know my legs are heavier than most other people's, probably, or at least what I see. And I just know I'm on the right track. And so that keeps giving me the strength to keep going. I know I'm doing the right thing. And so I squeeze it up, and I squeeze it in, and I just jump in. And then I come out and I feel lighter. And I just know I'm doing the right thing. It's not always about being thin, because I don't know if I will be thin or whatever thin. I have no idea what thin really means. But what I have, I can't do without. And so I don't even think about other people, because I know that I'm healthy. I know I'm swimming and doing the right things. And I may never look like some of the people at the pool who don't do anything, but I know what I'm doing.
That's very good. And I know that in the past we belonged to a small pool, and most of my family, the various ones, they all belonged to the pool. And I would get there, and I wouldn't, I would get in the water, and I would stay in the water, because, you're less evident in the water than you are sitting out. Of course, I had the horror of breaking several chairs at the pool over the years, and had to start taking my own chair. So that didn't happen to me. It's pretty horrifying when you've got a pool full of people sitting around and having a good time, and your chair crumbles below you. And that happened to me several times. And I started bringing my own chair, because you do want to sit down once in a while from that.
Cindy, I had the experience when I started swimming of there were other people in the pool, and I had to find a spot for myself where I could just swim laps, where nobody was in my way and I wasn't in anybody else's way. So I would get really close to the end, to the side of the pool, because I didn't want to take up too much room. Well, you know what? I started scratching my hand. I was getting so close to the pool that my knuckles would bleed. So I wouldn't interrupt anybody else and wouldn't take up too much of the space. And I don't do that anymore.
You have the right to be there.
Say that again?
I said you have the right to be there.
I have the right to be there, and I don't feel like I'm so big anymore that I'm going to take up the pool and disrupt somebody else. I mean, I'm literally, my left hand would bleed, and it was constant because my knuckles would hit the side of the pool. I don't do that anymore.
That's good. That's definitely a positive in the journey. Definitely. Hope mentioned that we were talking about the breaking of chairs, and she says it's a fear of hers. And I can tell you from at some of my heaviest that when we would go on vacation to the beach or something, 2 years in a row I broke dining room chairs. And so I would pay the insurance instead of the deposit. That way I knew that the $40 or whatever would go toward whatever I possibly broke. That's, it is, it's hurtful.
It's not just you, it's also bad chairs.
Yeah, Amnon says it's bad chairs, but also.
he would say that.
But it is when you go to somebody's house and you have to think, and you see like this little antique chair, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, where am I going to sit? I'm not going to sit on that. Or you sit on a chair and you're so afraid that you might break it, that you've got so much weight on your legs and everything, and you're just trying not to put all the weight on the chair. So these are things that people deal with. They don't talk about it. It's too embarrassing. We're going to talk about it. We're going to share it. If you've had things like this happen, call in. Let's be very open and honest with one another. I'm going to try to be as honest as possible through the show. There's some things that are very hard to talk about, and we're going to talk about them anyway. I really I want to tell everyone how much I appreciate Marilyn in really helping me go ahead and decide to use this forum in my hopes that I can help other people that deal with similar type issues. And it doesn't have to be somebody that's 250 pounds overweight. It can be somebody that's 25 pounds overweight and they see themselves as a 200-pound woman or man, and that causes them to throw up their dinners. Or someone that exercises and only allows themselves to eat a little piece of celery or whatever a day. Those types of things are what we want to overcome, because whether it's obesity or just seeing yourself as a fat person, it's a dangerous, and it's going to hurt your health. And every day we see that the obesity epidemic that's hitting especially the United States. There's so many children out there that live with a stigma of obesity. And how do they love themselves when they're being bullied and made fun of? And how do we help them to step up and learn to be healthy and make the right decisions, especially maybe if they're in a household where Twinkies and Pop-Tarts and, SpaghettiOs are just a part of their everyday meal and life. To teach them about health, to teach them to want more, to teach them that they can make a difference, as limited as it may be within their own households. Marilyn, you've worked with a lot of children. You've worked with bullying. I would say that probably one of the biggest classes of children that get bullied are overweight. Would you agree with that?
I would say, I don't know if it's the biggest, but it certainly is a large amount. And I think, Cindy, for everyone, the fear of the unknown and the fear of not speaking about this and making it, you know, creating this forum for people to share makes a big difference. And the more you can get the stigma off about about being overweight and all that, it's going to help everybody. And as far as kids are concerned, I mean, kids are bullied about a lot of things. And when you're bullied about being overweight, it's a bad thing. And it's not just happening kid to kid. Parents are bullying their children who are overweight. They keep on them constantly about their weight and, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, how they should do it. Really, parents need to take a look at what they're doing at home to their kids who are overweight. It's a catch-22, and it can be a vicious cycle, but people really need to lay off their kids. It's just making it worse. And then they go to school and they're faced with the same the same kinds of things at school. They're embarrassed. Kids are making fun of them. They can't run as fast. They can't hit the ball as well. I was a chubby kid, and I was a girl, and I wasn't the ones that, sometimes the boys picked when I was younger to dance with at the parties, and I had to make excuses to myself while I sat in the corner why they didn't pick me. So kids could, they torture themselves. So we really need to get a handle on how we're treating the kids, and help them have an understanding and be able to speak about it and not hide from it. I can remember, you were saying something earlier. I remember eating like a lot of apples. Like I would go to my room when I was like 12, 13, 14, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was eating like 5 apples a day. And I was hiding it. I thought I was eating the right things, but I would be a closet eater. And that's what a lot of the kids do. And it's very sad. So I really, the bullying at school is one thing, but parents really need to get a handle and not bully their kids at home about it. They really need to lay off and love them and just help them love themselves so that they can find the strength to work on their own health. When parents do that to their kids, the kids don't feel good about anything about themselves. It molds their self-esteem in every way, shape, or form. And I've seen it with the kids that I've worked with. I see it with kids that I don't work with. My parents love me, but tell you what, I could see it in my mother's eyes when she would look at me. So we really need to be it's subtle, but we need to be really careful on how we handle it. And